In this session, we will cover slicer settings in Discover and Present. Slicers are used to filter queries using hierarchy elements from the data model. For example, a country slice can be used to show only the data for Australia or South Africa. Slicer settings allow you to change the way a slice is configured and how it operates, while slicer formatting options give you control of how the slice is graphically presented, controlling things like its title, member, elements, and border. This is covered in a separate video. To get a basic understanding of these concepts, let's start by adding a new slice filter to this report. By default, it's added as a basic drop-down slicer. When I change its value, the underlying report is filtered by the selected item. I can also use the slicer search function to find something specific in the slicer's item listing. Now I would like to change its default settings. I can access the slicer's settings by right-clicking on the slicer and selecting the Settings option, or by clicking the menu option and selecting Settings. The Settings panel will open, displaying options to change, including type, load time, limits, search type, other options, and the non-empty settings. Type settings let you change the slicer's title and graphical type. There are a range of types available covering different visualizations like drop-downs, lists, buttons, hierarchical trees, and calendar-style pickers. There may be different options based on the data source type and the data type of the selected attribute. Other variations allow for the selection of single or multiple elements. Let's change this to a multi-select drop-down. The initial selection mechanism determines which member element in the slice is initially selected when the report is opened. There are a few options. You can choose the Save Selection by Name option, which will match the exact item last used in the slicer the next time it is opened. Choosing the Save the Selection by Position will pick the item in the same position within the element list as the current selection. This is useful if the slicer is based on a list of items that changes, for example, the top 10 products. You might want to automatically load the top selling product. In this case, the slicer position needs to be saved rather than a specific item. The other options involve picking the first or last member elements in the list. We'll select the last. Let's save the report, and then let's reload it. We can see the slicer's initial selection defaults to the last item in the list. Subsequent selection defaults also allow the user's last selection to be remembered. If this option is not enabled, the given initial selection mechanism will be loaded every time the user opens the report. Select Apply to Slicer if cascaded if the slicer is being cascaded to. For instance, if you've configured a cascading slicer that cascades from country down to state, check this option for the state slicer to apply the given slice value modes to state. Slicers are set to display a limited number of items in the list. The limits are set by admins, but they can also be set in your own user defaults. Lastly, these limits can be further customized by Slice. A slicer limit set from a slicer's settings dialog cannot be greater than that set from the user or admin settings. If the slicer hierarchy contains more elements than the limit that was set, users can search for those elements from the slicer. The limit must be a number between 100 and system limit. For performance and usability reasons, you may want to decrease the maximum number of elements that can be displayed in the slicer so it loads quicker. The search type allows pre-filtering of the members to be selected as filters by configuring the search logic to only include members that either contain or don't contain the entered text, or begin with, end with, or exactly match the entered text. These search types will be applied to any slicer type that supports the search function: drop-down, text box, and tree. The slicer includes an on-off button next to its context menu. This button enables and disables the filter as needed. The filter is enabled by default, meaning that whenever the report is opened in Discover or Present, it will automatically filter the associated queries by the selection in the slicer. In other options, I can change the default filter behavior to be disabled, which means it does not operate when the relevant item is opened. So when the report is opened, the slicer is disabled and has no effect on the report. If the user makes a selection from the slice or clicks on the button, it will reactivate the slicer and apply the filter. The on-off button can also be hidden so that users cannot choose to disable the slicer. The non-empty filter option hides any empty members from the slicer if they don't have any values for the selected measure. This capability allows report designers to eliminate irrelevant members from a slicer quickly instead of building specialized lists. For example, in this Discover report where I have empty records, the state of Alberta has no sales or returns. If I drop the state on the filter drop zone, Alberta is displayed and can be selected. This is usually not an optimal user experience. If I want to hide such empty members, I can go to the settings, choose non-empty filter, and select the hide empty hierarchy members. When I click apply and then check my slicer, the state of Alberta is no longer displayed. To hide empty hierarchy members using different measures, deselect the use default measure. This will expose a measures tree from which you can choose the required measure or value. Tree slicers are one of the specialized slicer types. They will only operate when a multi-level hierarchy is used. Tree slicers allow users to navigate the hierarchical structure within the slicer. This allows users to easily filter using parent elements as well as their child and grandchild elements. In this discovery report, when I use a hierarchical chip in the filter drop zone, the multi-select and single-select tree options are now included in addition to all the standard slicer visualizations. Using the single-select tree slicer, we can see that I'm able to filter the report using an element which includes all its subordinate child and grandchild elements. If I reopen the tree and instead choose one of its child elements, I'm able to trigger a different selection. The multi-select tree slicer works in a similar fashion, except I can pick multiple elements in the tree structure. Here, the composite selection is included in the query. You can deselect all selected items by clicking the clear selected icon. Calendar slicers are the other specialized slicer. They only operate on date-time attributes from SQL-based models. They allow the injection of date-time logic without having predefined year, quarter, month, or week entities in the data model. By dropping the date attribute onto the filter, you can select a date or a series of dates using a user-friendly calendar interface. You can also change the granularity to years, semesters, quarters, months, weeks, or days and select accordingly. The range option allows you to choose a range of dates to be used for the selection. Here too, you can change the granularity. The formula option allows you to apply a year-to-date, quarter-to-date, month-to-date, or week-to-date formula to the selected date, enabling quick and easy selection of advanced logic. The last formula provides flexibility in selecting a number in conjunction with the date granularity. So, for example, I can select a monthly granularity, then select the last 3 months, quarters, semesters, or years. The calendar slice has similar settings to other slices, but it also has options to customize the classic date-time logic for the delivery of custom periods like fiscal or tax calendars. The settings let you define the year start. By default, it is set to 1st of January, but this can be changed by selecting a month and or date from the year start field. For example, you may want to change the year start to the beginning of the fiscal year, 1st of July. This has a knock-on effect. So, semester 1 will be the first 6-month period from the 1st of July. The first quarter will reflect the first 3-month period from July to September. The 7-day period beginning on the 1st of July will be the first week of the year. Next, from the next year drop-down, select if the year start is this year or next year. For example, if you're filtering for an academic year beginning on the 1st of September, you need to choose if the start date, the 1st of September, refers to this year or next year. By default, the week start is set to Sunday. You can change the week start by selecting a different day from the week start drop-down. For instance, if the week start is Monday in your organization, you can change the week start to Monday. The display options also allow you to determine which types of options are or are not presented to users: simple, range, and/or a formula. By default, granularity is enabled, meaning users can elect to pick dates by year, semester, quarter, month, or week. If you disable granularity, then only the date grouping will be enabled in the calendar picker.